Good morning and welcome to Take Your Life Back. Today is September 4th. It's about 3:30 in the morning. I just want to share with everyone something this morning. I saw a demonstration maybe about a month ago in reference to our dark side and the power of prayer. If you continuously pray over and over and over again, things will eventually become clear. Although a lot of times when we pray to God, we don't get answers right away. But if you continuously pray over and over, things become clear. So the demonstration involves this bottle, and if you see, the inside of this bottle is all dark liquid. That represents our dark side. And this cap represents our limitations. So we as a human, which is the bottle, have limitations, which is this cap. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this bottle into the sink and we're going to do a demonstration. So let me put that there. I'm going to turn the camera around so that everybody can see it. And hopefully you folks can all see it now. Okay, so you see the bottle. I'm going to turn the water on. Okay, so now everything inside is dark, which represents our body and our inside. And what I'm going to do, and this clear water represents our prayer. So you see the continuous water running. I'm going to now, as the prayer, as we're praying, I'm going to lift our limitations, which is the cap. And we're going to slowly add our prayer to this. We all go through dark times. I mean, I've had some dark years. I just didn't understand everything that was happening. I'm going to admit it that I'm not a super patient person. I tend to want answers right away and know what's happening and what I can do to solve it. I don't like not being happy and confident about things. It's just not who I am. But when I get down, it takes a lot for me to get back up. If we pray for a sign, which is this, the water is prayer, but just give up because we feel like God's already heard our prayer and He knows what we need, but He hasn't answered. It's kind of like when we were kids in the toy store and we kept asking our mom and dad for toys, but we never got any results. Yeah, it never worked for me either, but you get what I mean. Anyway, that is exactly what's happened to me in the past years. I have prayed and prayed and prayed, but haven't really gotten any results. The answer I thought God would give me, and especially in the time of frame, I thought my problems would be fixed, which was all before 2013. Then in 2013, my cap of limitations was lifted. This is the cap, remember this now, was lifted off the bottle, which is my body. Here is where I will just show you how that worked for me. So basically we all have dark sides, which is what's in the bottle, was in the bottle. We are facing, and we take the limitations off our mind, which was the cap I lifted. Don't limit what He can do because we have to just trust in the Lord. That sometimes even after we pray and we just give up, and it is often why we get defeated. However, even though nothing has really changed, we just keep praying. That's the prayer, the sign of the prayer, the flowing Lord. Just keep praying and never ever give up praying. And if we do that and devote ourselves completely to the Lord, He will pull us through. The dark times will go away and we just have to be patient. I know it's hard. Being patient truly is a virtue. But by never ever giving up on prayer, it's going to show you that God will eventually answer all your prayer. And the more we pray, which is this water going into the bottle, one day everything will become clear. You see how clear this is now? That is the power of prayer. Folks, I think that demonstration says it all. If we had a bottle which represents our body, and the bottle, everything was dark on the inside, and the water coming out of the faucet represents the prayer, day after day after day, just keeps adding to the darkness which was in the bottle. Eventually all that prayer has to turn what was dark inside this bottle, which is our body, has to change and become as clear as this water in here. That, folks, is the power of prayer. Hello, folks. My name is Ralf Friedrichs. I just want to share my story with my situation back in 1981 in the United States Marine Corps. I was sitting in a chapel during boot camp, and a chaplain tapped me on the shoulder and asked me to come into his quiet room. As I was walking into his quiet room, I had no idea what he wanted from me. It was then that God was setting my life in motion. So the chaplain sat me down and he says, Ralph, I've noticed that you like to help people, you motivate people, you're always walking around with a smile. And I wanted to know, and this is the chaplain saying this to me, I wanted to know, Ralph, would you like to volunteer and become a lay leader? And of course, I had no idea what a lay leader was. So he explained to me what a lay leader was. It's somebody that is a liaison between the recruits and the chaplain. So when the recruits have issues, problems, or anything like that, they go to the lay leader, and they go to the chaplain as the lay leader to let the chaplain know of the situations that are happening. It was then in 1981 that God already had a plan for me, and what when there from that point on was that God realized that no matter how long it would take for me to achieve what God already knew what was going to happen to me, He would let me go down into the worst extremes in life. So from 1981 as a lay leader, and I'm going to show you the medal now with a lay leader, the front and the back. This is the back of the medal, and then the front looks like this. So in 1981, at Paris Island, South Carolina, when I became a lay leader, God already had my life set in motion. But again, He wanted me to set my own course in life. So I went down the years and the course of my life and did some of the worst things possible to my own body through alcoholism. God already said to Himself, well, I'm going to wait for Ralph to get close to hitting rock bottom. So from 1981 until 2011, which is 30 years, God came to me again and He said, Ralph, are you ready to continue helping other people? That's when I formed Mastic Beach Outreach 2011, and what that was is for older people and mentally and physically challenged people, that my wife and I would help them by giving them clothing, food, possibly, like in one case, tires for someone's car. And so God said, okay, he is getting better, but he's still not ready to do what I really wanted him to do. So in 2011, I continued my alcoholism to the point of 10 to 15 shots a day. As time went further, to 2 years down the road, it became worse and worse with my alcoholism. In 2013, God finally put His big hand on my head and says, are you ready now? That is when I hit rock bottom. June 22nd, 2013, I reached out and I finally admit that I had an alcohol problem. It was then when God lifted me up and set my life in motion for today, September 2nd, 2014. So from 2013 until 2014, I continue educating myself and you, others, through my websites, through my videos on how to battle with addiction. And God saw this, and He said to Himself, Ralph is still continuing helping people. So in between 2013 and 2014, as time was going by, and I proved to God that I was really reforming myself, that God introduced me to Dr. Luis Gonzalez. I had been toying with the idea about becoming a substance abuse counselor until I ran into an article about recovery coaching. So I thought it was very ironic that God had planted Dr. Luis Gonzalez from Starting Point, that's StartingPointMN.com, 844-414-844, into my life. Dr. Luis Gonzalez gave me the educational programming to turn me into a recovery coach. So while I was training for Dr. Luis Gonzalez to become a recovery coach, and today, my father comes from South Carolina to visit, and we're looking at my shrine, which my wife calls a shrine, which is all my Marine Corps ribbons and medals. And my father asked me, Ralph, what is this medal for? What is this particular medal for? And I then said to myself, here's where it all came together. I finally realized what that medal stood for and how it influenced me in my life. It was back in 1981 that God knew already that I would eventually, towards the middle or 60% of my life, be out to help other people, to continuously help people, to motivate people, to coach people. So it was from 1981 to 2011 that I ran my life to the ragged ends, to the pit of the worst. And then from 2011 to 2013, even worse than that. And then June 22nd, 2013, finally helped myself up with the grace of God. And in 2014, became an addiction recovery coach. And all that epiphany came to me due to my father asked me what this stood for. This particular silver medal, when he asked me that, it all finally came together, that God had bigger and better plans for me. And this is what I'm telling you, folks. There is a plan for you. No matter what the plan might be, you don't know what it is, but there is a plan for you. It's just a matter of you figuring it out. So why don't you let me help take your life back? Thank you. God bless you, and have a sober day. Hi, I'm Ralf Friedrichs. Welcome to Grand Central Station. The train to be here any minute, so if you're ready to get your life back on track, hop aboard. Let's go to www.clearviews.info, where I'll show you how a sober today can make a better tomorrow. If you're ready to get your life back on track, hop aboard the train coming in about 2 minutes. Thank you, and have a great day. www.clearviews.info. Good afternoon, my name is Ralf Friedrichs and welcome to Take Your Life Back. Well, today the background's a little different than usual, as you can tell, because I wanted to show you folks what the shrine, my shrine that my wife seems to giggle and laugh about. In the background you'll see some of my medals and ribbons and articles written, or pictures of me, articles written about my Beirut times back in 1983. You'll see a couple pictures of the USS Guadalcanal and the USS Nassau. And folks, you don't get to see my hairdo, although it is under here. I decided for this topic today to wear one of my Marine Corps hats, and today's topic is substance abuse in the military. You know, just because people in the military does not mean they are subject of not having addictions. People still have addictions no matter where they are. The addiction will find you and will try to take you over. Before I get into all that, let's talk about my plug that I usually give to Dr. Luis Gonzalez, and he is at Starting Point. That's www.startingpointmn.com. He can help you to go between your addiction and your recovery. He is like what I offer, a bridge. You just walk across. Here's the addiction, there's the recovery. Walk across. He will try to help you and work with your addiction. I hope that's a little better. I sat back a little. Again, you can reach him at www.startingpointmn.com. You can also reach him at 844-414-8444. Let's talk about what I have. My websites, my first one, which I created back in 2013, and that's www.clearviews.info. That's CLEARVIEWS.info. The CLEAR stands for Community Lessons Empower Addiction Recovery. Community Lessons Empower Addiction Recovery. That's CLEAR. Views is to see. So it's Community Lessons Empower Addiction Recovery Views. It's the views of the doctors that post on my website, the psychologists and the psychiatrists. It's the views of my videos, my own experience. Those views are your information. So if you go to clearviews.info, you can find all that information. Now, if you need help like Dr. Gonzalez does, I can also be your bridge between addiction and recovery. There's the bridge again. You can reach me at www.clearreform.com. The reform stands for I will help you reform or transform from your addiction to recovery. I promise you, folks, I am not a therapist or a counselor, so I will not ever bring up your past unless you want to talk about it. When you come to see me for addiction recovery coaching, I will only speak about today's 24 hours. Then we will talk about what's going to happen in the next week or the next day or whatever. But we only basically concentrate on the first 24 hours. So you can find that at www.clearreform.com. And you can also reach me, if you need to call me, at 844-405-HELP. And you can text me at 631-599-0218. And folks, by all means, go to Facebook. We have an open group now called Clear Reform. Come and join our group. You'll have access to seeing everything that is available. You can also go to my page, or pages, I should say. The first one would be those are my websites. The first one would be clearviews.info. The second one is Clear Reform. You just go to those pages. Now, I need your help with Clear Reform, my friends out there. I need to reach 500 likes in order to get advertising dollars from a certain manufacturer or a certain organization. Right now, I'm at 99 likes. Folks, I have over 1,800 Facebook friends. If only half would consider liking my page, and I don't see why you wouldn't like. Anytime a person fights for addiction and the war, the drug war, or the war on drugs, you folks should like it automatically. It's not like I'm selling sneakers or anything. I am here as a soldier to fight a war on drugs, and I need your help. And your help is certainly appreciated. Just go to Clear Reform, which is on Facebook, and hit like. I really appreciate it. I need to get those 500 likes to get those advertising dollars. And what do those advertising dollars do for me? Not only do they advertise my website, but they do something for you. And not necessarily maybe for you directly if you don't have addictions, but there is somebody in your life or in your family or around you that has an addiction. So people like me that go out there and battle each and every day for people like maybe you or someone that you know that has an addiction, that is why I need your likes. And it's such a simple thing. You just go to your computer and you hit click and you like. That's it. So let's dive right into substance abuse in the military. Members of the armed forces are not immune to substance use problems that affect the rest of society. Matter of fact, if anything, they do it more, and I'll tell you why. It's because they are under constant pressure, whether it's here in the States in the military with training, or it's under the fire of the enemy. And I do know what it's like to be in such arenas or conflicts. Although it wasn't considered a war, but Beirut, Lebanon was considered police duty. We were merely there in between the PLO and Israel shooting at each other, and we were there to protect. Unfortunately, October 23rd, 2013, that protection pretty much came to an end when we had a terrorist bomb our barracks, and we lost 241 Marines among some Navy personnel and civilians. Folks, substance abuse, I don't remember how much was there at the time. I do know I started drinking a lot more when I was in the military, not only due to the pressures of the military, but also due to the pressures of being away from your loved ones. So let's go back into it. Although illicit drug use is lower among U.S. military personnel than other civilians, heavy alcohol and tobacco use, especially prescription drug abuse, are much more prevalent than they are on a rise daily. The alcohol and prescription drugs, I can certainly relate to that, not personally with the prescription drugs, but the alcohol. I became a full-fledged alcoholic in all my years in the Marine Corps. It became increasingly more each year, and certainly the only time I really didn't get to drink too much is when I served on the USS Guadalcanal and the USS Nassau for 6 months. One was a NATO float and one was a Mediterranean float. Folks, when you're on the ships, you don't get to drink much, but I'll tell you, I made up for it every time I hit shore, no matter in what country I was in. Drugs in the military threaten our national security because they lower the readiness of our troops. Folks, if you're in a war situation and you're in a foxhole with a couple of your buddies, the worst thing you want to be is somebody that's intoxicated, whether with alcohol and or drugs. They undermine authority and the strict order that fuels military efficiency. You cannot shoot straight, you can't march straight, you can't see the enemy straight when you're under the influence, when you're high. And most importantly, they damage human lives. Folks, that is the most important thing, but they all kind of play a role in together. The lives of the brave men and women who risk their lives to fight for our freedoms. You know, it was such an honor to serve my country as a United States Marine, but I will tell you, my alcoholism, I think, accelerated as I was in the military and as time went on. That I can almost promise you.
How serious is the problem of drug use in the military? After 2 decades in which general abuse levels declined across the branches of the U.S. military, recent numbers indicate the problem is once again reaching epic proportions. Well, folks, we have conflicts going on, Iraq, Afghanistan, Middle East. We have situations all over the world that will do this to us military people. And I speak to my brothers and sisters who are either now still serving, who are veterans or retired. You folks know of the pressures that are put upon us as military people. It is not an easy function to be under. Since 1999, over 17,000 people have been discharged from the U.S. military because of drug use. And folks, when that happens, unless it's for a medical reason, that discharge, when I say medical, that drug abuse was for medical, it's a dishonorable discharge and it ruins the rest of your life. The Navy has discharged more individuals because of drug use during that time, 3,400, than any other branch of armed services. Since 1999, failed drug tests have increased in the U.S. Air Force by 82% and the U.S. Army by 37%. Folks, that is absolutely astronomical numbers. In addition, many young people who have a history of drug use may choose the military in an attempt to turn their lives around and get clean. Sounds good, but I will tell you folks, it got worse for me, but everybody is different. In addition, many young people who have a history of drug use may choose the military as an attempt to turn their lives around. Listen to those words, and I hope to God that that works for, even if it's 3/4 out of 100% that go in there. While this works for some people, others may end up bringing their habits with them into the service or, like myself, increase their habits. Currently, there are several reasons why drug use in the military has reached the highest levels in many years. Stress. Folks, the stress, you're constantly on high readiness, you're constantly training, you're constantly on a time clock, there's always something going on, so the stress alone is enough to get to you. Access of, when you're in the military, you don't have a lot of bills to pay, and you do get ample amount of leave time unless you're being deployed somewhere, so you have access to alcohol and or drugs. And you know what, in any military base there are areas where you can, hypothetically speaking here, let's just go to one of my duty stations, which was Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, and there was a street called Court Street in Jacksonville, and not only do you have drugs and alcohol there, you have a massive amount of tattoos, so it's everywhere, folks. The only way to avoid it is by having a strong will and to finally admit that you have a problem, which we're going to talk about. Inactivity. That could be because you're just laying around. Sometimes there are times where you're not doing much of anything and you're just inactive. And I spoke about this in the most recent video about myself when I had an accident in Alaska. I was on workman's comp for 3 years and not working, and that caused me to drink even more because I was at home. I didn't have to worry about showing up for work. And of course, alertness. These are Currently, there are several reasons why drug use in the military has reached the highest level in many years. These are the reasons. Alertness is number 4 on there. People, for some reason, I'll tell you right now, every time I drank, I wasn't alert. But people are saying that some drugs, some synthetic drugs that are out there, marijuana supposedly, makes you more alert. Never worked for me. However, I wasn't into drugs, although alcohol is a drug, but I was more into the alcohol aspect of it. Kind of weird. I'm looking in the camera and I see, and I haven't worn a hat in a long time, but I'm like I said, I'm doing this for a reason, to make a point that it doesn't matter what situation you're in, an addiction will find you and take your life if it can. Doesn't matter if you're in the Marines, Army, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, Merchant Marines, etc. It doesn't matter. There are few places where drug abuse is more dangerous than on field of battle. Individuals who engage in substance abuse during wartime are creating a number of potential problems, including risking one's own personal safety. Of course, if you're high or drunk, how are you going to fight the enemy? Not only are you fighting the physical enemy, you're fighting an enemy within yourself then, which is your addiction. That enemy is so silent and it's so invisible, and the only soldier that can win, or the only Marine that can beat the enemy that's within you, the called addiction, is you and your higher power. You're also putting your comrades at high risk when you're high and drunk. And these people, we almost need to count on each other. It's not almost, we do need to count on each other. I have to have your back as much as you have to have my back, but I can't have your back if I'm high or drunk. It's that simple, folks. Creating the wrong kind of environment, and that is so true. When you're out in the battlefields, you are creating an environment of not only the enemy's war that you're trying to win, you're creating a war within yourself and your own comrades. The armed forces of the United States are not prone to hand-holding when it comes to drug abuse within its ranks. While there are some drug rehab programs available to soldiers on active duty, the more common response to the problem is a dishonorable discharge. So, folks, that is not the answer, to just merely kick people out because they have an addiction. Of course, they're not going to operate properly, but let's look at it at a deeper root here. What if somebody comes into the military and doesn't have a drug or alcohol problem, and it is the military's daily living activities that causes this individual, this Marine, to have sudden outbursts with drugs and alcohol? Is it merely the military that should just say, well, you're out of here and here's your dishonorable discharge and I'm glad we ruined your life now? Or should they not take care of their own? And if the person did come in with an alcohol and drug problem, that should have been picked up prior. Folks, I went through a tremendous amount to get into the Marine Corps, and one of the reasons was because I was born in Germany. I had to go through FBI and CIA checks to even get into the Marine Corps. I remember I was up at Sullivan County Community College, and I was being recruited out of a recruiting office in Monticello, New York. And when he heard that I was born in Germany, he knew, because he told me it's going to be a lengthy process to get me cleared. And back then, in the early 80s, there wasn't even that much terrorism. I mean, Beirut didn't even happen back then. Can you imagine now what you go through? But folks, this is what I'm trying to tell you. It's not for the best interest of the military or the Marine. The minute you see a problem with your Marine who has dedicated his life to service, to just kick him out and give him a dishonorable discharge. I think someone needs to look at the root of the problem and how to fix it. I think we need to send these Marines, Navy, Army, or Air Force people into a rehab center. We don't merely just kick them out. Illicit and prescription drugs in the military. According to the 2008 Department of Defense, otherwise known as the DoD, survey of health-related behaviors among active-duty military personnel, just 2.3% of all military personnel were, in the past month, users of a illicit drug. 2.3%, that's excellent. Although I'd like to see 0, but 2.3 I'll take. Compared with 12% of all civilians. Do you see the big difference? There's a 10% difference among those ages 18 to 25 who are most likely to use drugs. A policy of zero tolerance for drug use among DoD, meaning all military personnel, is likely one reason why illicit drug use has remained at a low level in the military for 2 decades. The policy was instituted in 1982. However, in spite of low level of illicit drug use, abuse prescription drugs is higher among service members than any, because you go to the VA hospital and you complain about a sneeze and they want to give you. They're so willing to kick you out when you have a problem, but they're really feeding into your problem by constantly writing you a new prescription. Folks, take a look at our VA hospitals. Then take a look at how many people you throw out at the Marines, Army, Navy, Air Force because they have a problem. I say it, I'll say it again. When they went into the military, did they have that problem? And if not, shouldn't the military take care of their own? And if they did, how'd they get past the process of the screening process? Doesn't make sense, folks. And we're going to talk about the aspect about getting into any military, or just the aspect of your book of life. We're going to talk about it because I like to talk about it because it's an important issue. Drinking and smoking in the military. Alcohol is also higher among men and women in military service than among any other civilians or civilian service. Almost half of active Active duty service members, 47% reported binge drinking in 2008. Folks, I was in the early 80s. I bet you it was even higher back then. Illicit drugs was probably lower, but marijuana and alcohol was higher. That's up from 35% in 1998. In 2008, 20% of military personnel reported binge drinking every week in the past month. The rate was considerably higher, 27% among those with high combat exposure. You know, you put one and one together. Of course, when you're sent over to Iraq and Afghanistan over and over again, you're under so much stress, inactivity. You're being shot at by an enemy who you don't even know why you're fighting for them. Not for them, but for the location you're at, because nobody appreciates you. You got to worry about being kidnapped and having your head taken off. I don't know. My personal opinion, really, I don't want to get into what my personal opinion is in reference to our presence in the Middle East. I personally feel it's all about oil. I don't feel that they want us there, and I feel that we're wasting lots of lives. We've over 4,000 lives already. Folks, when I was in Beirut, Lebanon, only order was not to lock and load. That was by, and I love President Ronald Reagan, but because we weren't there during a war situation, was considered police duty, we were allowed to carry our 45s and our M16s, but we were not allowed to lock and load until the bombing. Then they said, okay, everybody can lock and load now. I think the only time we were allowed to lock and load was during MP duty, which I got to stand a few times out in the front gate. It took 241 Marines to die for us to be able to lock and load, because we didn't have an enemy, according to our commander-in-chief at the time, Ronald Reagan, and the Congress and the Senate. We didn't have an enemy. We were protecting, or we were the middleman between PLO and Israel, and we became the victim. Suicides and substance abuse. Suicide rates in the military were traditionally lower than among civilians the same age range, but in 2004 the suicide rate in the U.S. Army began to climb, surpassing the civilian rate in 2008. Substance use is involved in many of these studies. A lot of times people think it's a suicide when it's really an overdose. If there's no note left behind, the coroner does an autopsy, he sees a lot of drugs in the body, and right away they say, well, it has to be suicide. The only way a person's going to know whether or not it was a suicide is if they remember the book of life, your chapters in your book, your patterns in your life. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Addressing the problem. A 2012 report prepared for the DoD, Department of Defense, by the Institute of Medicine, IOM, report recommended ways of addressing the problem of substance abuse use in the military, including increasing the use of evidence-based prevention and treatment interventions, and expanding access to care, which we need to. We don't just merely kick them out with a dishonorable discharge. The report recommends broadening insurance coverage to include effective outpatient treatments and better equipped healthcare providers to recognize the screen for substance use problems so that they can refer patients to the appropriate evidence-based treatment when needed. Not merely a dishonorable discharge. Folks, I'm ashamed to even say it. I'm ashamed that the military would do that to poor young men and women that are out there serving their country, run into a situation where they became addicted to drugs and or alcohol, and then they merely get a dishonorable discharge and ruin their lives. It also recommends measures like limiting access to alcohol on bases, like the villages in Alaska we spoke about in one of my tapes. Make all military bases on base dry. Not damp, not wet. How do we classify those? Through, in Alaskan terms, a dry village, which would be equivalent to a dry military base, means no alcohol to be brought in, no alcohol to be sold, no alcohol to be drank on base. Damp, no alcohol to be sold on base, but you can bring it in. Wet, it's free for all. Sold, drank, brought in. I recommend no alcohol on the base. Period. Where were we here? Branches of the military have already taken steps to curb prescription drug abuse. Well, that's good. Let's start at the VA hospitals. Don't write prescriptions for every sniffle and sneeze. It's that simple. Analyze what the Marine is there for and determine what's needed to correct your findings. If the Marine is there complaining that he has pain from an injury, pick and choose how many painkillers you give. Because if you give him 30 for something that should go away in 10, you're feeding into a 20-day additional addiction for him or her. Mental health problems in returning veterans. Service members may carry the psychological and physical wounds of their military experience with them in subsequent civilian life. Folks, after I came back from Lebanon, Beirut, Lebanon, 83, it's kind of hard for me to remember exactly, but I remember just seeing bodies. And I remember everything went so quick, and there wasn't a lot of screaming, just a couple of loud booms. I do remember not seeing a lot of my friends anymore, at least not seeing them alive. But because of my injury sustained right there and then, I was also rushed for treatment. So folks, people will come back, especially people coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan, that are going to be scarred in their minds, probably forever. However, there has to be a better way to treat this than feeding them drugs to escape their wounds. We need to find out how to heal those wounds, not escape reality by prescribing prescription drugs. In one study, 1 in 4 veterans returning from Iraq and Afghanistan reported symptoms of mental disorder. 1 in 6 reported symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, otherwise known as PTSD. Let me read that a little slower. In one study, 1 in 4 veterans returning from Iraq and Afghanistan reported symptoms of mental disorders. 1 in 6 reported symptoms of post-traumatic stress, otherwise known as PTSD. And what do? They go to the VA hospital, and one of the genius doctors gives them a prescription which feeds into their addiction. Young adult veterans are particularly likely to have substance use or other mental health issues. Folks, it took me a while to get over Beirut, Lebanon. That was nothing compared to Iraq and Afghanistan, because my enemy, our enemy at the time, was driving a truck loaded with dynamite or bombs. Afghanistan and Iraq, the enemy could be the women, could be the children that you're looking at, could be anyone. Our enemy was a truck driver loaded with dynamite. There were some instances also there. Our enemies were children coming in to play with us that we allowed to play. But mainly the cause of our destruction that day was due to that truck coming in. But people in Afghanistan and people in Iraq are being shot at, are being threatened to be beheaded. Those are the pressures that are causing a lot of stress and causing a lot of substance abuse. Think of it this way, folks. You see daily on the news what's going on in Afghanistan and Iraq, and you've heard about the beheadings. Picture yourself over there as an 18 and 19-year-old boy or a woman or girl. Picture yourself. We all have been where we've been stressed out, where what did we do? We reached for a bottle. Some of you might have reached for drugs. They are being shot at. They're being put under tremendous pressure, and they're only human. So when they reach for a bottle or they reach for prescription drugs, it is understandably normal to do that. However, something has to be done to alleviate that totally. What we need to come up with is new action plans for our military personnel. Number 1 is we can't have the VA just handing out prescription drugs like it's candy. Number 2 is that when we do have a Marine that has alcohol and or drug addiction problems, we don't just merely kick him out of the Corps and hand him a piece of paper that ruined the rest of his life because he has an addiction because of the pressures that might have been from the military. What we need to do is to come up with an action plan to treat this Marine. what the military might have broken, we need to fix as the military. I'm not saying everybody that comes into that gets in the military becomes an alcoholic or a drug infested. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is that if they came in and they didn't have a problem that was noticeably noticed during screening process, and they, after a year or two, are now binge drinkers and drug abusers, that only tells me one thing, that the military is what caused this. And I'm not blaming the military. What I am saying is the stress and the pressures of wartime. The stress and the pressures of being at peace in Beirut, Lebanon, between Israel and the PLO, and being shot at daily and bombs going across as missiles. That will cause people to drink and do drugs. Folks, my alcohol consumption increased in the military tremendously. That was a chapter in my book of life that I won't ever forget, but I don't like to reread it. I talk about the chapters of your book of life. We all have a beginning, which is our birth, and we have an ending, which will be our death, whenever that might be. And it is merely the chapters that are written in between your birth and your death that are important. But it's more important, the ending chapters. Here we are in 2014. I was born in 1961. There are a lot of chapters that are not the best chapters to read. From 1961 to 1978, 79, my chapters were like any normal child or a young teenager. Great soccer player, excellent hockey player, go to college, join the Marine Corps. Before going to college, I was already drinking alcohol tremendously. Not to the point of binge drinking or complete alcoholic, but I was doing my share. In the Marine Corps, I started drinking heavy. So those chapters in my life from 61 until 78, 79, 80 are chapters that I'd rather forget. However, they are chapters in my book of life. And then from there, in the Marine Corps, I've said this story once before, but in case it's the first time you're seeing me, 1981, a chaplain tapped me on the shoulder in the church, asked me indirectly, really quickly, I'll explain it, become a lay leader. What is a lay leader? A lay leader is a liaison between the recruit and the chaplain. I am the acting person in between. When the recruit has a problem and the chaplain needs to help it, the recruit goes to me as the lay leader, I go to the chaplain. Then the chaplain gives me an action plan, I go back to the recruit, I take care of it. Why did the chaplain want me to be a lay leader? Because the chaplain noticed that everybody has a good quality within themselves, no matter who you are. My good quality is I'm always concerned about the next person. I always want to help other people. Maybe it's because that's the way I was brought up. My mother is a very Christian woman. It could be. I come from a Christian family, from her parents and some on my dad's side. That it could very well be. But God noticed back in 1981 that the chaplain wanted me to be a lay leader. It was God back in 1981 that already knew what 2014 would bring to me. But yet he let me continuously write my own chapters. From 1981, those chapters became worse and worse. All the way to 2011, when God once again pulled me in. And through God, I created Mastic Beach Outreach 2011 with my wife. What that organization was doing is helping the elders and the handicaps, mentally and physically challenged people, with either food, clothing, or merchandise, if we had it within our budget to do so. God already saw it again. Here's Ralph again, trying to help other people. But God looked down and he noticed that I still had one issue that needed to be taken care of, and that was called alcoholism. So God let me continue writing my own chapters, and they were getting worse and worse from 2011 to 2013, to the tune of 10 to 15 shots of vodka a day. God let me just ruin I shouldn't say ruin, let me continuously drink. And then in 2011, God finally said to me, "Isn't it about time, Ralph, that you finally straighten up? You have such a good heart to help other people." And it was in 2011 I hit rock bottom. That's when God lifted me out of the pit of rock bottom and told me, "Now, Ralph, you are ready for what I knew you were going to do in 1981. There were so many times I could have died. I could have died in Beirut, Lebanon. I could have died in Alaska when I had a bad accident. In 2009, I was on workman's comp for 3 years, and I could have died of substance or alcoholism at least 2-3 times, folks. But God shielded me every time because he had a bigger plan for me. And here I sit today telling you that his plan was always for me to go out and witness to you folks about addiction, about alcohol and drug abuse. So in 2013, when I lifted myself up with the grace of God out of my pit of rock bottom, I created clearviews.info. That was my first sign of a new Ralph and a new chapter in my book of life. 2014 rolls around. I run into Dr. Luis Gonzalez from Starting Point. He has the program on how to become an addiction coach. He saw good qualities in me by looking at these videos that I created. So him and I started chatting, and he agreed to put me through his educational program. And by the grace of God, I am now a master addiction recovery coach. God is utilizing me now to keep walking forward. But folks, it comes down to this one thing that I'm telling you right now. Starting in 2013, when God lifted me out of the pit of rock bottom, my chapters in my book started becoming better. So it doesn't matter from 2013 all the way back to 1961. It doesn't matter. Just like if you go to God and you ask for guidance and direction, and you ask to have your sins cleansed, even if you're a murderer, He will forgive you just as much He has forgiven me from my chapters that I wrote myself in my book of life all the way to 2013. He has forgiven me, and He has told me, now I want you to do my work. I am not a preacher, I am not a pastor, but I am a believer. But I am an addiction recovery coach, and I'm trying to coach you folks and letting you know that there is a happiness without alcohol. There is happiness without drugs. And it all starts in your home. If you're a mother, a father, a grandparent, or a legal guardian, it starts in your home. You need to be a role model. If you drink in front of your children, expect them to drink. If you smoke in front of your children, expect them to smoke. If you use that nasty profanity that some people that I hear out in the streets use, expect your children to use it. And God willing, or God forbid, you hit your husband or your wife or anyone, expect your children to do that. People are going to laugh and chuckle at my remark. Like my wife, she always chuckles and laughs. Monkey see, monkey do is the attitude of a child. Your children look at you as mommy and daddy, grandparents, or legal guardian as their hero. So when you hit someone, or you drink and you smoke, or use profanity, they say it's okay because my hero is doing it. If you truly want to be a hero that shows nothing but good leadership within your home and a good role model. If you're so desperate to drink and smoke, do it somewhere else. If you're so desperate to use that nasty profanity, do it somewhere else, not in front of your children. And God forbid, if you feel the need that you have to hit someone, seek therapy, seek counseling. And if you're listening to me and you're a victim of domestic abuse, seek the authorities and seek them immediately. Because a punch here and a slap there will eventually become a knife here or a shot with a rifle or a pistol there. So if you're the abuser, seek therapy. If you're the victim, seek the authorities. And if you're a youngster, a child listening to me, please know this, that I hope if your parents are not watching, that you get them right now. And let me tell your parents or your grandparents or your legal guardian that they need for you to see a non-smoker, a non-drinker, a non-abuser, and a non-profanity language carrier, if that's a word. Children, your parents are your hero. Your parents are always going to be your hero. And parents, you need to be a role model. Don't let your child think it's okay to smoke and drink and abuse and curse. Don't let them think that. Because you need to set the stage of their book of life from their birth until their end of time. But you need to set that the first 18 years, let's say every year is a chapter. Those first 18 chapters have to include things like love, happiness, role model, family dinners, family days out, family game nights. Those chapters should not include my daddy hit my mommy, my daddy was drunk again, my mommy cursed at me all day, my mother smoked in the car and got me sick. Those chapters should not be in your child's book of life. Folks, if you do the first 18 chapters in your children's book, it is up to them at chapter 19 to run with that. Know that you have done everything to let your children go into a world that's going to be hopefully successful and a good role model for them to show others. Hopefully that's what they'll do. But if you merely just go day to day with your drinking, your smoking, your cursing, and your domestic abuse from day one of their book until 18 years, don't think for 1 minute that they're going to go out there and it's going to be different, because they're just going to continue doing what you showed them. The only way that could change is with the grace of God, that God swipes them up and sucks them up and hopefully changes them for you. But why don't you help God by being a good role model? If you're watching me right now and you're ready to give up your drinking and your drugging, there are different methods to do it. AA is always the method that I talk about in the beginning, because if I continuously always bring up my methods first, it sounds like I'm promoting my method. No, I am promoting sobriety. It's that simple. I'm not saying my method is better or their method is better. I am promoting sobriety for you. So if you want the goal of sobriety and how to live with your addiction, go to AA. Try them. They have this 12-step program. Go do the first 90 days and 90 meetings. Try them. Try my methods, which is videotapes and education. Try that. If you really need supervision, try a treatment center. If you go to my www.clearreviews.info, page 7, I have 2 separate lists of all 50 states with different locations. Click on either one of them. At the end of the day, no matter what method you liked, you need to include your higher power, folks. Let God be part of your book. Again, 1961 I was born, today's 2014. Let's hypothetically say I haven't changed yet. Today would be my first book where my first chapter where the chapters would become better. Fortunately, I already have a year and a couple months under my belt when it comes to that. But deep down inside, I've always had my higher power inside me. It was my alcoholism that was holding any feelings or any right decisions back from me. If I would have done this, in other words, if I wouldn't have stopped denying the fact that I was an alcoholic way back, 20 years back, would I be a better person? I'm sure I would be. Am I happy with myself right now? Oh, definitely am, because where I came from to where I am right now is like night and day. It's never, never too late to change. Never. But it all starts with you. By you saying, Ralph, I am done with my drinking and my drugging. Reach out to AA, reach out to me, reach out to the treatment centers, but definitely reach out to God. Break down in front of God and ask Him to pull you up, and He will. I put on a video, and you'll see, you probably saw it in the beginning of this one, the power of prayer. It starts off with a bottle that has all like grape juice in it, but it's all dark liquid. And then on the bottle is a cap, and that cap represents our limitations. So now I put this bottle into a sink with a faucet running. The cap is still on the bottle. The minute I lift that cap up, which is our limitations, and let the clear water, which represents prayer, into the dark water, which represents our body, after about 3 minutes of that clear water directly running into the dark water, it becomes clearer and clearer and clearer. And after about 3.5 minutes, the water that was dark inside became clear as crystal, or crystal clear, because of that clear running water, which was prayer. That, folks, is the power of prayer. That clear water constantly running into your darkness. So the more you pray, the clearer your inside becomes, or whatever darkness you have in there. I say this all the time. Let the sun shine into your home and into your heart. And there will be changes on the horizon. Reach out to either AA, reach out to treatment centers, reach out to whoever. You can text me if you don't want to talk to me. You can text me 631-599-0218. You can email me at clearreform. Excuse me one second. You can email me at clearreform@yahoo.com. You can, excuse me, I have to put my phone away so it doesn't go off again. You can also call me at 844-405-HELP. But it has to start, and it has to start soon. Tomorrow is never guaranteed for any one of us. But I will tell you, like we just spoke about the book of life, our life. My chapters have gotten so much better since 2013, that if I never wake up tomorrow morning, people will remember me as a fighter for me and a fighter for you. That's how I'll be remembered. How will you be remembered? More importantly, when you go into the bathroom and you look into the mirror, what do you see? Do you see a person that's depressed, heavily involved in alcohol and drugs? Or do you see a person that's on a rebound of creating a whole new chapter in their book? Because if that's what you see, you're doing the right thing. But if you see the first issue that I brought up, which is depression, substance abuse, you need to change. You need to stop denying that you have a problem. But don't be like some of the friends that I have down south that reached out to me and then stopped. It is not a temporary thing. When you break down and you admit you have a problem, it's either you do and you do something about it, or you still do have a problem, but you don't do anything about it. And when you don't do anything about it, the problem is still there. Not only is the problem still there, but then you are a problem too, because you are the problem of that problem not being taken care of. And one day it might be too late. And if it's not because you died in your sleep, it could be because you drank and drove and you killed yourself or innocent people, or you overdosed with your drug addiction. Folks, it's that simple. You need to do something, and you need to do something soon. You know, I'm looking at this camera and I see the picture of myself up there. That picture was taken in 1980. Picture of a Marine, very sturdy, very strength-looking Marine. But deep down inside, that chest that you see in that picture was already a Marine who had a drug addiction, an alcohol addiction. That's my point. Pictures are deceiving. Never judge a book by its cover. That looks like a strong, mean Marine. I still am strong, but I'm not Marine. I'm not mean. The difference between that picture and this picture, besides the age difference, is that I don't have any more alcohol issues. I have learned to live with my alcoholism. That picture is just exactly what it is. It's a picture. It's to show you what I look like as a Marine, but it doesn't show you what I felt like as a Marine or as a human inside me. Never judge a book by its cover. Simple as that. But I'm here to tell you that any person that's willing to admit and stop denying that they have a problem will, with the grace of God, learn how to deal with it. And it's very simple to deal with it. The bottom line, it comes down to a couple of things. The most important thing is you need to have an action plan, and no matter what you do in life, it can be how to wake up in the morning having cravings for alcohol or drugs. You need to have an action plan. It's how to go to parties and they're serving alcohol. You need to have an action plan on what to do. One of the action plans that I can supply for you would be this Thursday, and that's called mocktails. Those are cocktails without the alcohol. They mock a cocktail. That'll be on Throwback Thursday's video this week. Write the recipes down if you want, or the name, because you can find the recipes online. Write the name of it down. You need to have an action plan. And that action plan should be in your own home too. It should be in your own home. What is your action plan on becoming a role model if you're not one already? Here's 4 things that you can start already. And if you have any of these 4, take the one that you have and come up with an action plan. Do you drink at home? Action plan would be to stop doing it. If you are that much in need of your alcohol, do it on the outside somewhere. I don't condone doing it. I'd rather have you not do it at all. But if you need to do it on the outside. Don't do it in front of your children. If you have to smoke, go outside with the cigarette. Not only is it a bad example to smoke in front of your children, it's not even healthy for other people to have to inhale your smoke. If you have to do drugs, 2 things I want you to do is check into a treatment center. That's the first thing. But don't do it at home. Don't leave the drugs at home. Don't make your drugs accessible to your children. And if you have infants, God forbid your infants should find your pills because they fell on the floor and they start eating them. If you curse, you just feel the need that you have to curse, which I can't even understand why, do it outside your home. If you have the need to hit your spouse, seek therapy, counseling immediately. And if you're the victim, seek the authorities. Because a punch here and a slap there will be a knife here and a gunshot there. I know it's never easy to call the police on somebody you love, but it's either you call the police or the police will be there to take your body out. If you continuously let domestic abuse be allowable, not just to you but in front of your children. So either the police are going to show up to take the abuser out of your home, or the police are going to show up to take the body out of your home. You choose. I know which choice I would make. Let's recap on this real quick. Substance abuse in the military. These several drugs to which soldiers seem to gravitate more to than others. The substance includes marijuana, cocaine, and other stimulants. Opiates, which are Vicodin and oxycodone. Those are the drugs that the military personnel seem to want to use. Currently, there are several reasons why drug use in the military has reached highest levels in years. Stress, access, inactivity, and alertness. There are a few places where drug abuse is more dangerous than on the field of battle. Individuals who engage in substance abuse during wartime are creating a number of potential problems, including risking one's own personal safety, putting their comrades in jeopardy, and creating a wrong kind of environment. Illicit drug and prescription drugs are an all-time low in the military. They are 10% lower than civilians. And a lot of that has to do with because they're so strict on they have a zero tolerance. And when they do catch you doing it, you're out of there on a dishonorable discharge. I don't agree with that. I think we need to fix the problem. If we broke a military person because of wartime or whatever, we need to fix them, not merely just kick them out. Drinking and smoking. Alcohol use is also higher among men and women in the military. About 47% of military people admitted on binge drinking. 47%. That's astronomical. That's up from 35% in 2008 and up from 20% in 1998. Suicides and substance abuse. Suicide rates in the military were traditionally lower than among civilians. But in 2004, the suicide rate in the U.S. Army began to decline. I don't know why in the Army. You would think in the Marine. Well, no, because there are a lot more Army personnel than I think any personnel. So that could be it. You know, statistic-wise, more numbers is maybe what they're talking about. Addressing the problem. 2012 report prepared by the DoD, which is the Department of Defense, and by the Institute of Medicine, which is the IOM, recommended ways to addressing the problem of substance abuse, including finding a way to put their Marines, soldiers, airmen, and Navy personnel, seamen, in a treatment center or some sort of atmosphere like that, not to merely give them walking papers. We have to take care of our own. Branches of military have already taken steps to curb prescription drug abuse. Most of the abuse, I think, well, besides the military people doing it, they're getting it from other military people, including the VA hospital, for every sniffle and sneeze. Mental health problems in returning veterans. Folks, I gave you the story. When I came back from Beirut, it took me quite some time from the gruesome things that I saw. One of my pictures, if you look, it's right up there. You'll actually see that was from, I believe it was from the New York Newsweek, 1983, of the bodies, the charred bodies just laying everywhere. I'll never forget those days. Those are chapters in my book of life that were written by me, but it included a lot of my bad things. But that's a chapter I'll never forget. It made me a stronger person, but it also, I think, helped make me drink more. I don't know why, but I'm not blaming anyone but myself. I am the alcoholic. I am totally accountable for any actions that I did during my alcoholic years. But in the military, I consumed so much more alcohol. It was ridiculously higher than any other time. Service members may carry a psychological and physical wounds of their military experience with them into subsequent civilian life. In one study, 1 in 4 veterans returning from Iraq and Afghanistan reported symptoms of mental disorders. 1 in 6 reported symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. Young adult veterans are particularly likely to have substance use than any other age group. Folks, this was a really important topic for me, being a United States Marine veteran, and it should be for you. But the whole topic about the military is just 1/3 of this discussion. The other 2/3 are about what is going on with you, with your addiction, whether it be alcohol and other drugs. What is your action plan? And what is going on in your home? Are you a good role model? Do you act in front of your children the way you're supposed to? And if you don't, forget that chapter in your book. Rewrite the next chapter. Rewrite the chapters where you're not going to curse, and you're not going to drink, and you're not going to smoke, and you're not going to hit anyone. Rewrite those chapters. But they need to start, and they need to start today. Let today, September 9th, 2014, be the best chapter going forward. And then any other chapter after, even better, like in my book. Every chapter, every click that you see is another chapter and another year in my life. And one day, it just stops, and that's the end of my life. But from here, this was all bad, or not that great. From this point on, they all became better. You can do the same. With the grace of God, you ask for guidance and direction. He will help you. With my help, I can be here at 1-844-405-HELP. You can go to Dr. Luis Gonzalez, 844-414-8444. www.startingpointmn.com. Let him help you with your addiction. Let me help you with your addiction. The United States is so huge, and we are so heavily populated with people with addictions that people like Dr. Luis Gonzalez and myself and many other addiction recovery coaches out there have so much potential of taking clients on, because it's an epidemic out there. I had to think what to say, because it's not about the money. It's about helping you. We have so much business out there that no matter how many addiction recovery coaches, they wouldn't be able to take care of it. And the only reason we're not all swamped is because people, maybe like you, are not ready to make that leap into sobriety. Because you are going to go through that stage of denial, but you need to stop today, September 9th, 2014, because there might not be a September 10th, 2014. And then that last chapter in your book of life will be remembered as a person that was either heavily involved in drugs and alcohol. Don't let that happen. You can live a better life without alcohol and drugs, I promise you. Folks, I say this in every single video, but if you let the sunshine into your heart and into your home, the sunshine will give you nothing but positive feedback. Your positive outlook in life, your positive personality will siphon and wear off to other people. But if you're negative about everything, that will also then trickle down to other people. So sunshine is positive. Let the sunshine in your heart and in your home make everything positive around you. And part of that positive process is not to curse and not to drink and not to smoke and not to certainly hit people. Start today. Because a sober today, I guarantee, will make a better tomorrow. If you believe it in here, what I'm telling you, and in your heart, you'll see it clear no matter where you are. And the reason I said clear is because community lessons empower addiction recovery. You and I are a community. My whole audience, no matter where you are my community. And as much as you're my community, when God looks down onto the world, that's his community. And you are part of God's community. And God wants nothing more than for you to have better chapters in your life. I don't want anything more than that either. So reach out to your higher power, ask for guidance and direction, reach out to whoever you feel most comfortable to support you during your addiction recovery. But you need to reach out and you need to do it soon. Folks, I hope everybody has a great day today, and hopefully Wednesday, what am I doing? Which show am I doing? Oh, Wednesday I will be doing Just Say No. Nancy Reagan. I had to think for a minute. Tomorrow's theme will be Just Say No, including your workplace. Because people are always saying just say no's to school, just say no's at home. Include your workplace. I will talk about what to do if you're an employer and you suspect people doing drugs in your company, or if you're an employee and you see your co-workers do it. And I'm going to talk about Nancy Reagan's Just Say No policy that she invented. I believe it was 1986 it became a big, huge slogan. Just say no. But what I want you to say yes to is to change your life today. Just say yes to new chapters in your life, and I promise you a sober today makes for a better tomorrow. Have a great day, and God bless you. And more importantly, have a sober day. God bless you.